Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new sports debate video. So for today's video, we're going to be talking about the Los Angeles Lakers. So currently the Los Angeles Lakers are in the 7th seed in the Western Conference with a record of 37-30. And as of the day we're recording this, which is Sunday, May 9th, they've lost 2 games in a row. And if the season were to end today and there's just about 4 or 5 games left in the regular season, the Lakers have 5 games left. Or rather, 5 games left. The Lakers would be in the play-in tournament. And if things stood where they are right now, they would have to face Steph Curry and the Warriors in the first round of the play-in tournament. Since the Lakers are the 7th seed, though, they do get 2 chances to make it to the playoffs. But obviously, playing in the play-in tournament was not something the Lakers envisioned at the beginning of the season. So, with that being said, we're gonna get going to Jared to see what he thinks is the biggest reason for the Lakers' struggles this season. So, Jared.
Right. So, coming from last year, we know the Lakers everyone had very high hopes of the Lakers. They won the championship last year. A great team, many good off-season trades they made. They acquired Dennis Schroeder, Montrezl Harrell. Those are 2 great athletes, but I don't want to place the blame entirely on them, but I do think that they had not been performing exactly, I guess, how they were expected to, or the best possible manner. We know Dennis Schroeder right now is averaging the most minutes per game that he ever has, in total. And now he's not averaging the numbers that we saw from him last year, 2 years ago, even with these increased minutes, which could be taking away playing time from other players who you never know could be playing better or something like that. Montrezl Harrell as well. His past seasons with the Clippers were great, but this year with the Lakers, it could be because of a new environment around the new team. Not as much chemistry, I guess, but he also has not been playing as well as he had in the past. But of course, it's not fair to place the blame entirely on those 2. LeBron James' injury was very upsetting for the Lakers and many of their fans, obviously. But he is such a crucial part of this team. And you did see, once he got hurt, the team dropped from projected to win the West all the way down. Now they're, as Shivam said, 5th in the play-in tournament. There's many different possibilities of where they're going to land. Not entirely sure yet, but I think the lack of performance from these better players and the injuries of the other better players as well is really harming them, even though they do have great young talent. But with great young talent comes inexperience, and towards the end of the season, these young players might be, running out of steam. They're not used to an 82-game season, and that comes with experience, which some of these guys don't have. Shivam?
Yeah, so everything Jared said was pretty much spot on. Like Jared first said, the off-season acquisitions, even an in-season acquisition where they got Andre Drummond, you can also say that, just as Schroeder and Harrell aren't performing, at least to the way the Lakers and many of the fans thought they were, you can also say the same thing about Drummond, and he's not performing the same way that many people thought he was going to. And also for Dennis Schroeder, this is only his 2nd season, or 3rd season rather, of him fully starting. He started 78 games in 2016 and 67 games in 2017, and this is only his 3rd season. So it's only 3rd season as a full starter, a new culture, new team. Montrezl Harrell, same thing, new culture, new team. That obviously has to be some of the reason as to why they're not performing the reason they are. And once again, as Jerry said, you can't put the blame all on them. LeBron James and Anthony Davis. These are the 2 guys. These are the 2 superstars of the Lakers team. 2 superstars in the league. Two of the best players in the league when you look at all the players. And LeBron James is obviously, we know what he can do in the court, but it's also what he does off the court. His mentorship, his leadership, the presence he brings. When you're an opposing team and you're an opposing coach, your game plan is around LeBron James. And when he's not on the court, it just makes your job so much easier. And same thing for Anthony Davis. Your game plan is around those 2 guys whenever you're playing the Lakers. And if those 2 guys aren't there, it just makes your job so much easier to go out there and beat them. And even when they have been playing this season, LeBron James came back for a game, and then he said he was never going to be 100% for the rest of his career. And then he went right back to sitting a game. And Anthony Davis, same thing with him. It doesn't look like he's going to be 100% for the rest of the season. You might even be able to say the same thing about LeBron James. So I want to say health is the biggest reason as to why the Lakers are struggling. But you can also point to, as Jared said, inexperience with those younger players as the second biggest reason as to why the Lakers are struggling. And if we move on to concern, like, do you think it's time to be concerned about the Lakers? And I definitely think it is, because as mentioned before, LeBron James might not be 100% for the rest of the season. Same thing about Anthony Davis. And if you're playing in the play-in tournament right now, you might get Steph Curry in the playing tournament, and the way he's been playing, I mean, he's been putting up an MVP type season. Now, will he win it? Probably not. But his numbers, I mean, they're just unbelievable. Yesterday, he had like 49 points and 11 three-pointers in 3 quarters. If he played the fourth quarter, he probably may have tied or broken Klay Thompson's record with 14 three-pointers made in a game. But then if they lose that game, obviously you're either going to get the Spurs or Grizzlies most likely to try to get into the playoffs. So they probably will make it to the playoffs. But then you got to play the Suns or the Jazz if you do. So, Jazz, hottest team in basketball the whole entire season pretty much. They're winning 5 in a row at this point. And then the Suns, Devin Booker and Chris Paul. So it doesn't get much easier. Jared, what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree that their way into the playoffs is definitely going to be difficult. As mentioned, those great teams. I mean, teams that you wouldn't have expected from last year, really, like the Suns. You really wouldn't have expected them to do this well this year, and I think it's interesting to see the league shifting. It's I don't I guess I kind of have mixed feelings about it because it's mainly due to the injuries of Anthony Davis and LeBron James that the Lakers aren't up on top as they were expected to be. But I do think it's interesting to see a shift in the league and who's running it. And I agree with your point about it's going to be scary for them if they have to play the Golden State Warriors with the way Steph Curry has been playing. He has been going insane.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be interesting to see how all of this plays out in the end.